let's go ahead and dive into training. I'm going to pull up my slides and we'll get rocking and rolling. I teach tips for success around process, and process is just A to Z. When you follow process, you're going to have repeatable, predictable results. And I say that government contracting is not a secret. It's just that process. And so that's what we're teaching today. Mistake number one is having this an unfocused and unclear offering. Really what that means is I sell everything, right? It's just really not good for your customers to be able to understand what you sell when you're saying you sell so much. And so I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever said to yourself, your team, et cetera, that if I was in the customer, if I could get into a meeting, that I could have success, right? If I could just tell them what we do and how we can help them, then I'm sure they would give me a contract. First, that's not really how it works. But second, the problem for why you're not even getting in there, right? Sometimes we blame it on the government not letting us in, not inviting us in, et cetera. But one of the reasons you're not getting in is because you have a confusing offer. If the government is looking to bring somebody in who can help them with their elevators, but you do all things construction, well, that's unfocused. You're saying you do all these things. I just need somebody who can do elevators and they're great at elevators. Or I need somebody who's great at cybersecurity or workforce development, right? I don't need somebody who's great at just all types of training. I need somebody who's good at computer-based training. Things like that, right? You need to have a focused offer, and it helps avoid the customer being confused about what you sell. When they're not confused about what you sell, then they will invite you in. Contrast that to if they are confused, right? If buyers are confused about what you sell, they just move on. I call it cart abandonment sometimes, where they come in, they look at your company and they kind of want to work with you. They're thinking maybe I could work with this vendor, and then they get confused and they bail, right? They just move on to the next person because the government is trying to operate in a frictionless environment. They want to make easy decisions on which vendors to bring in during market research, which then theoretically leads to wins for you. So if your buyer gets confused, they're just going to move on, and you want to do what you can to make it easy for them to understand what you do. It's okay if they move on because what you said you sell is not what they need. But if they move on, even though what you sell is what they need, but if they move on because they're confused about it, that's something you can do. That's something you can fix. And we'll talk about this. The reason most small businesses get into the situation, most A-days get into the situation, is because we're afraid if we niche down, we'll not win something. So an example is if you think about, I do IT services. That is all things IT, information technology. Well, that's really, really big, right? That's an unfocused, unclear offering. But what I'm saying to myself is, hey, if I say that I'm just a Microsoft Stack or even SharePoint, which is a Microsoft product, SharePoint experts, well, then maybe we won't get invited in for knowledge management projects or these other projects. Or if I don't say project management, for example, they don't think I can do project management on SharePoint projects or whatever, right? We're afraid to niche down. But if you niche down, you make it easy for people to be able to typecast you. And think about actors, right? I was trying to think of an actor that everybody knows, but maybe everybody knows Arnold Schwarzenegger, partly because he was an actor and partly because he was governor of California, all these kind of things. But Arnold Schwarzenegger was, could be typecast as a tough guy. He just went around doing all these fighting roles in his acting career. But he did that in order to get in. And then afterwards, he started doing silly comedies or even romance type movies, right? But the typecasting enabled him to establish himself as an actor. And I want you to typecast yourself around your niche that establishes yourself as a proven vendor to the government, somebody who can come in and help them with their needs, meet the expectations on the RFP, on the requirements, and be able to come out with very good and exceptional CPARs, for example. Well, if you do that, then you can begin to offer more services, more related services to your niche. And so that afraid of opportunities lost is that similar thing. If I go after only this, I feel like I won't, there's this opportunity I could try to respond to, or it's this one I could try to respond to. And really, it all comes down to we're afraid to make the tough choice, right? We're afraid to define what we're best at. And we're afraid to believe that if we define what we're best at, that it will open the door. They call it tip of the spear, right? For a reason. We talk about be the tip of the spear. In this case, I want your niche to be the tip of the spear of your service offering. And the idea is, and this is a little brutal now that I think about it, but the tip of the spear is that it starts that first cut, and then the spear goes in. You can also think of it as a beachhead. I've used this analogy before about beachheads. You establish a beachhead, you get recognized as a proven vendor, and then you can begin to do so much more work. And so your focus offering needs to be niched down tight. And I want to give a couple examples. And then in the chat, I'm not looking at it at the moment, but I want you to tell us in the chat if you can say it this way. But here are some examples. When I hear people, I remember them. It's in my memory. So one that's just popping up right away is workforce development, right? Another one is elevator services, elevator installation, maintenance, and repair, that kind of thing, right? So elevator services. Another one is Office 365, or even, and which is acceptable because that's kind of a body of applications, or niching down even more down to Microsoft Online or Microsoft SharePoint, Power Apps, et cetera, niching down and saying, this is what we're really good at. If you're on the construction side, right? Maybe painting or flooring or framing and wall, and well, I guess it's like framing and painting. I'm not that much into construction, right? But this idea of niching down, having clear understanding of what you offer. If you're on the cybersecurity side, right? Maybe cyber is a niche. It's good. It's not all things IT technology or information technology, but maybe you can niche down a little bit more on cyber to zero trust, or maybe you really are good at red team and blue team. And for those of you in cyber, you know what I'm talking about. And you can talk about that's where we fit, or risk management framework, right? Cyber with an expertise around risk management framework. So just tell us what yours are. Do you know what yours is? Or do you feel like maybe you're saying that you sell a lot because you're afraid that if you don't say you do everything, you'll miss out on something? All right, so second mistake is being invisible to a federal buyer and teammate. And this one's a really quick one to fix, right? I actually think mistake number one is the hardest mistake to fix, because you have to stop and go, all right, what are we best at? And let's admit, or let's accept that, and let's sell on that. But this is just being invisible is just a task that you can get done. And so if you think about the way that federal buyers do market research, it fundamentally, and I have a lot of training that goes into this, so you can go find a lot of replay training on this, but basically the way the federal buyer does market research is the first thing they ask themselves is, do I know anyone, right? Do I have any existing vendors or people who have been talking to me, et cetera? Do I know anyone who might fit the need that I have so that I can do market research with that vendor? First question. Second question I ask myself as a federal market researcher is, are there enough sellers in the agency supplier portal? And I made a mistake there, but what I really meant is, are there any sellers that fit my need in our agency supplier portal? So some agencies, HHS, NavAir, organizations like that, they have their own supplier portal where you go in and you register saying, I'm interested in working with HHS. And so they'll look in there, the buyer will look in there and say, is there anybody in there that I can talk to about market research activities? And then the last question they ask, if they can't find you or companies like yours in the agency portal, is they'll go out to the dynamic small business search. And so let me go out to DSBS, check these 300,000 businesses that are in there who are saying, I want to sell to the federal government, and let me search for the ones that meet my requirements. And so the challenge here is that most companies are still invisible in DSBS. DSBS is the simplest thing that you can do to improve your visibility in your company. There's three main things you want to do. There's a lot of little things, and I have whole DSBS trainings, but three main things you want to go do today. You want to go in and make sure every keyword that you want to be found for, let's say a minimum of 10 keywords. If somebody searches for SharePoint, if somebody searches for Teams, if somebody searches for zero trust, whatever your words are, right? Elevator maintenance. If somebody searches for this word, I want to be found for that word. Do you know what your top 10 keywords are, right? Go into DSBS and make sure those keywords are in your profile within the dynamic small business search. The second thing is, there are fields within DSBS, one in particular called the capabilities narrative. It is the place where you answer the question, what do you do? Right? And you weave in your top 10 keywords into that narrative so that when somebody lands on your profile, you're able to sit there and say, oh, we do this, this, this in order to help you do this, this, and this while avoiding this risk. Something like that, right? I have whole trainings on how you can write great narratives. They're free. They're on YouTube. They're on our website. They're everywhere, right? Go find them. But you can write a narrative really quickly. And with ChatGPT, you can literally write it today and get it up. Getting it updated might take a little bit because, you know, who knows about government tools, but writing it is very fast. And the last one, and this is really important because this is the And I feel like I say this a lot. This is the biggest mistake A-Days are making. But there are many A-Days like you who have past performance in what you sell, but you're not letting the buyer know that. So when I go into DSBS and I look at your company and I go, oh, hey, here's the keyword. I found this profile. And now let me look at the narrative. Oh, it looks good. And I go to the bottom of the profile. There's no experience listed. And so I just bail, right? I just move on to the next vendor because this company appears not to have any experience. You have experience, but if you don't list it in there, you're invisible, right? You're not telling your story of how great you are. So make sure that number one tip there on fixing your invisibility problem, just get into DSBS and address it. You can certainly do it before the end of the week. And when you do, you increase your chances for success. I'm not telling you you're going to get a contract award, but I am telling you if you're invisible, you're not even going to get your door knocked on, let alone get an award, right? So do this one tip. It's free. The second one is the supplier portal. I talked about the supplier portals, just be in them. That's it. Just go get in the supplier portals so that when buyers and teammates are looking for a company like yours, they can find you. If you're not in the portal and that's one of the places they look, how can they find you? Right? So go to our website, by the way, www.govconchamber.com, download our ebook. It's a free ebook. Download the ebook. It's got like 100 supplier portals in there. You just click on the link, go sign up and register. It is literally that simple. And you start with the agencies you're trying to sell to and the large primes that are in the agencies that you want to sell to. Third one is, so here's my third tip for really increasing your visibility. It's free, but a little time consuming, but it's fine. Send your capability to target customers, right? Before I go any further, do not spam. Do not send it to a bunch of people. First, that's bad form, right? We agree? We don't like spam, so don't spam. Second thing is they sit next to each other. It's like, did you get Neil's email? Yeah, he just spammed all of us, I think, right? That's not a good thing. You don't want them talking badly about you. Here's my tip for you. And it's a really cool tip. Pick up the phone, call them, leave a voicemail and say, hey, I'd like to send my capability statement because I'd like to see if there's times when we can work together and we can support your agency. Would that be okay? Right? You're almost always going to get a voicemail, so leave it. Have a script that you can say that. You're asking permission to leave the capability statement. Then you can follow up with an email and say, hey, I'd like to send my capability statement so we can be considered for any opportunities or requirements that you have in the future. Would that be okay? The reason I like this approach is because the other person, when they come back and they say, sure, send me a capability statement, which is basically the normal way of working anyways, they're giving you permission to send the capability statement. In fact, they're asking for you to send them the capability statement. Now they've invested a little bit into it. And so when they get it, they're going to be a little bit more aware of your company. You're on their radar. You're sinking a little bit into their mind because you just had that dialogue. I just did a post today. If you're not tracking on my daily, every day on LinkedIn, I'm putting content out that you can use. I just shared 45 NAVC. That's why I have NAVC here as an example. 45 NAVC small business specialists. Don't spam them, right? But their emails and their names and their phone numbers are there. What excuse do you have if you want to work in the Navy for not calling them all today and tomorrow to say, hey, would it be okay if I send you my capability statement? And Dave Wolfs might be in today's training. He's one of those people in that list. By the way, this is a sales tactic. We have tactics to do our job, and it's a great way to sit there and just reach out. So do that. You've got the names, numbers, and emails, and you can go to our website again, www.govconchamber.com, and on there you get a free ebook. I got 1,000 plus people, just like these ones from NAVC, 1,000 from across the agencies, and over 100 SBLOs, large prime small business liaison officers. I have their information right there in the directory. Find your target agency, begin to reach out to them, and do it in this soft way of asking permission to send the capability statement, and you'll find you'll begin to build that relationship with them. All right, so let's talk about the third mistake here. And I know I'm kind of cruising at a fire hose pace. It's fire hose for me too. But the third mistake that we make, as especially 8A firms, as we're going towards the end of the year and we're trying to get a piece of the 50% sole sourcing that happens towards the end of the year, is we don't have any sales process. We don't have any process we're really following, or maybe we, documented it, or we said to ourselves, hey, here's our process, but we're not actually following it, because then we give ourselves this excuse of, things are so hectic and busy, let's just get it done. No. Process is process. You either have it or you don't. You either follow it or you don't. And I'm encouraging you to establish a process and then follow it. And I'll give you a process today. If you don't have one, I'll give you a really simple process to follow for end of the year activity in particular, right? This is pretty similar to what you would do all year long, but there's a little bit of more aggressiveness to it. So the very first step is you need to know your slam dunk opportunity, right? And by the way, going back to mistake number one, you have to have a clear, focused offer in order to know what a slam dunk opportunity is. And I say here, not are. I don't want you to have 2 slam dunk opportunities or many. This is our slam dunk opportunity, right? This is what we're looking for. That way, when you define it, you'll be able to identify it immediately when you see it. If you're coming across 5 opportunities and you look and you're like, whoa, that's our slam dunk opportunity. It's like they wrote it for us. That's the whole point of a slam dunk opportunity, is it means it aligns completely with what you sell. So the first thing is know what your slam dunk opportunity is. By the way, not in your head, write it down so anybody on your team understands it. Our slam dunk opportunity is SharePoint development on no vehicle so that we can pursue it, something like that. If it's a SharePoint opportunity on Oasis, that's not really a slam dunk for us because I don't have access to that vehicle. I could try to team, but it becomes less of a slam dunk, right? So whatever your slam dunk opportunity is, define it. I have a whole separate training, and just go look at, I think we're at 300 trainings come Monday. And so you can look back there and there's one that is at least one that's labeled slam dunk opportunities. So it's 30 minutes explaining how do you define that. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to triage quickly to no bid. The whole point of sales is about no bidding. It's not about trying to get more and more into your pipeline. It's trying to get rid of the stuff that you don't want so that you can find your slam dunk opportunity. And I wrote here that you're not trying to find gold. So think about a gold mine, right? You know the gold is in there. You're not trying to find the gold. You're trying to get rid of the dirt. When you go into a gold mine, your main effort is to get all the dirt out of the way so then you can put your attention on the gold. You're not trying to find the gold. It's there. And in government contracting, end of the year spending, when you start looking at opportunities, and I'm going to use STARS 3 as an example here, you know the gold is there. You just got to get rid of the opportunities that are no bid, the dirt, so that you can work on the gold. But if you're working on the no bid or opportunities that should be no bid, then you're never going to get a chance to get near the gold. So let's use this example of STARS 3. And I'm just using STARS 3 as a contract vehicle. I happen to work with some customers who are on it. But STARS 3, for those of you who don't know, is this IT contract vehicle dedicated to 1,200 8A small businesses. So that's who the contract holders are. And IT projects come out into that vehicle, and anybody in 8A or anybody with STARS 3 can go after it. And so the first bullet I have here is that if it comes out on STARS 3, you know it's real. And what I mean by this is when I teach people capture, I tell them one of the first things you got to do is find out if an opportunity is real. If you see it on a long range forecast, or if you see it in GovWin, it's not real. It's just the first time you see it. You got to pick up the phone and go, well, is there funding for it? Is there somebody really shepherding this through? Has the acquisition process or life cycle begun? Or is it just somebody's idea that's out there? Or is it GovWin just going, well, this was done before, it's probably going to be done again? How do you know, right? So you got to pursue finding out whether it's real. But if it's on a contract vehicle like STARS 3, I already know it's real. It wouldn't have been there if they haven't moved pretty far in the acquisition life cycle. So then you have to look at it and say, it seems right for me, right? Some of the opportunities that come out on STARS 3, if you're in the IT business as an 8A firm, are going to be a fit for you. Maybe they're cyber and you don't do cyber. It's like, okay, those are not a fit for me. And then you can look here and you're just eyeballing based on the title and a very quick look, because that seems right for us. And your goal now is to identify whether it is a slam dunk. And that third bullet is, and this is the process I'm teaching you, right? Identify if it's real, and then see if it's an initial fit for you. Now dive deep really quick to see if it actually is a slam dunk opportunity. And you do that by creating a requirements gap analysis. You can use any tool you want, but I recommend a requirements gap analysis that allows me to do a couple of major things. I'm basically looking at the opportunity to look at the task areas so I can determine whether we are strong, medium, or weak on the task areas, right? Can I cover down on it? When I break the task areas down, I can instantly see, does this align to our core competencies? Yes, 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 it does. There's a separate section where I put a lot of the nuances. So an example, I just want to do a quick one, is sometimes they talk about certain skills. That's different than a task area. So an example is people must have these skills in the work. I just worked on an opportunity that somebody had a no bid this week. And in there was a particular certification requirement people who work on the project must have. And when you do a requirements gap analysis, you will list those things out, and you'll be able to quickly go, what the heck is that? And what they realized was that no one had this certification, and probably no one was going to be able to get it, right? And so when you have a requirement gap analysis, it's a spreadsheet basically, and I'll do a separate training someday on that. But the idea is when you have that, now you can look at it and clearly see that it's a fit for your company or not, right? But it's a fit for your company. It's a slam dunk, and you move forward in the sales process. So the next thing I do is I create and I use a teaming partner worksheet, and I've done training on this before, and you can go find that as well. But the whole idea of it is don't go talk to teaming partners without a set of requirements. I see this all the time. People go in and talk to vendors, and teaming partners in this case are just vendors. They go talk to them, but they don't have any written requirements. Well, how are you evaluating people or companies equally? So write down your requirements. A teaming partner worksheet will sit there and say, well, I need you to cover down on these task areas strongly because I got the other ones, but I don't have these. So I don't need them looking at everything. I need them looking at these 2 task areas. I have these particular skill areas that I can't cover down on, right? I need this organizational certification. I need this socioeconomic designation, right? On your worksheet, you define what you're looking for from a teaming partner. So then you turn around and you start evaluating teaming partners. You can look right away and go, oh, you know what? That teaming partner I love, they're not going to be able to do this because I know what they do and this is not them. So let me go find new ones. That's what a teaming partner worksheet does for you, is it speeds the process along. In fact, it is a process for finding teaming partners. And the last tip I just have for how do you rapidly move forward at the end of the year when you've got a lot less time is rapidly create an outline of the pages. I see people drag the writing process on, but just turn around, write an outline of the pages. And I don't mean what a proposal manager does, which is a heavy compliance exercise. I mean just storyboarding it, if you will. What do we plan on saying? If there's 8 pages, what do we envision those 8 pages would look like? What's the story we're trying to tell, right? Don't kill yourself trying to think of win themes and all these things I like, but they're just a little too crazy to go fast. Just look at it and go, if this is a slam dunk, what are we trying to say on these pages that'll make us look great at the end? And the way you do that is to make sure you have reusable content. If you don't have reusable content, don't worry about it. The very next time you write something, write with the idea of making reusable content. So if you have a staffing approach, if you have a technical approach to something they're doing, write it for the proposal and then quickly go, how can I turn that into something reusable? So now the next opportunity RFI or RFP that you're going to respond to, you've got 40%, 50%, 80% of it written already. And I always say the 20% is tweaking to that customer type thing. Very fast tip on that. But here's what I want you to remember from today's training, right? End of the year spending is absolutely real. And it's a reality for any 8A firm in particular, or any business who's procurement ready, right? Has got experience doing what they sell. If you say you sell a certain thing and you've got experience, then you should expect that you might be able to get some of the end of the year spending, especially in this case, the 8A sole source dollars that I'm talking about. So it's like, $2+ billion that happened in the last quarter. And then if you fix these 3 mistakes that I've talked about today, then you're going to significantly increase your chances of winning. Right? Part of your chances of winning will come from the buyer not abandoning you and going to your competitor, but they stay with you because you have a clear, focused offer. They find you because you're not invisible, right? So fix these mistakes that we talked about. Just want to say a quick thank you to the sustaining members of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. Sustaining membership is how we make a lot of this stuff possible, and so thank you. If you're not a sustaining member, consider becoming one today. If you want to work with me or my team to accelerate your business, this is a significant investment. So we talk about looking for firms that are 2 million or plus. And also I'm looking for firms that have the past performance, but maybe not the processes in place so that we can really help them accelerate to the next level. If this is something you're interested in, I'm trying to find, in particular, 5 8A firms that might want to join us in this last quarter as we move forward in our workshop. I'm open to talking to any firm. I like talking to firms where I can help them, but I definitely need you to be at a certain level because everything I teach in these dailies is for people just getting in. But the workshop's designed for people who've got some traction and got some revenue, frankly. So for the rest of us, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.